Alrighty, you guys, welcome to a brand new segment that I like to call fun little new intro. I don't know, let me know what you guys think. Whipped it up real quick. Welcome on in, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's topic of discussion will be the 2022 experimental art horror phenomenon, I guess. Skinamarink, directed by Kyle Edward Ball, written and directed. It's also his debut film. And ironically enough, this is another Canadian movie, or director movie, I guess.
Hello, Gooby.
Okay, he's going to come say hi. It is his report, after all, right? Hi, sweetheart. Hi. Hi. Now he wants my attention, of course. Follows the story of two children who wake up in the middle of the night to find their parents missing, and all the windows and doors in their home have vanished. Now, it's a little bit more than that, obviously, but that's just a quick little summary that they give. The budget for this movie was only $15,000. Now, I know that's a lot. I know. But for a movie, that's not a lot. The profit was over $2 million. My gosh, we haven't seen percentages like that since Paranormal Activity or even like the Blair Witch Project, you know? You might be wondering to yourself, what is a Skinamarink? It could be associated with a children's song called Skinamarink, but there's no real, like, the director himself hasn't given any solid answers to that. So, you know, it's just, it could be like that spin on that like childhood game. Because if it is an older game and like an older children's song, they do incorporate a lot of like 1920s cartoons and so on. It could maybe be calling like to that. One thing to know that I think, even though it happened during post-production for the film, I think its impact still comes through in the final product. The assistant director for the movie, Josh Buchalter, passed away right as filming ended. So, you know, being the director, he's grieving his really close friend, but also having to focus on the project that they were set out to do together. All of the audio was on the assistant director's laptop, so had to go through family and whatnot to get it. So there's like a whole dedication in the very beginning to him and his family. And the movie itself was also shot in the childhood home of director Kyle Edward Ball. So that adds a very unique aspect to it, I think. This feels like a very personal piece, you know? Like he's making this to try to like make up for maybe like his childhood fears or something. I'm not sure, but it feels extremely personal. And a quote that I found really interesting, he said in regards to filming in his childhood home, he said, "I knew the house, obviously, so well. Going into it, I thought, I know the house. I don't have to work at trying to make it personal because that's already built in. I didn't need to consciously think about what parts of the house scare me. It just flowed." And that really like struck a nerve, I guess, with me. Because like, I think everyone can relate to that in a way. Like, there are certain aspects of the childhood home you grew up in that just creep you out, you know? And this movie is just a culmination of all of those, you know? Going back real quick to the mention of cartoons that are used, the director himself said Somewhere in Dreamland by Max Fleischer was a huge, you know, they use it all throughout, and it's honestly kind of like your relief points, because any other time you're pretty on edge. You know how like in Paranormal Activity, whenever it's daytime, like you feel a sense of relief, and then as soon as it goes to that night shot, you tense up again. It's like that. You can kind of like let your guard down a little bit when the TV pops up, but then eventually as that goes on, those two start to become like creepy. Well, creepier than they could be already. But that cartoon specifically is about a little boy and a little girl in a house who have a dream. So I don't know, maybe that feeds into some of the different, theories out there. There are a lot. Also, with those close-up TV shots, they also have a lot of close-up Lego shots and different toys and whatnot. Funny enough, the Lego experts came out, like it was a big, huge post, just to clarify that certain Legos in that movie are not accurate to 1995, because that's the year it's supposed to take place. That freaking blew my mind. Like, oh my god. But of course there would be people out there that would pick up on that, So, this movie, I'm not going to jump through it like scene for scene or, a lot of people say that this movie has no plot. I disagree. I think it does. You gotta more so pay attention to the background stuff to pick it up, I think, but there is a plot to it. It might be a very loose, very vague, out there plot, but there is structure to this. And it relies so heavily on the power of suggestion. So heavily. I feel like that's probably where the majority of the horror in this comes from. There are some jump scares. Oh my god, there's some jump scares. But it's not like, it's not a Paranormal Activity movie. It's not like that. They do specify that Kevin, I believe that's his name. It's been like 2 days since I watched it, guys. Sorry. Like I said, I was sick. The father says on a phone call that he fell down the stairs and hit his head. So that instantly kicks off, like, I think people's kind of distrust for one or both of the parental figures. We'll get into that more. More so setting off that, like, an injury has happened, and a pretty serious one, like a head injury. That's bad. It'll play in. Soon, like pretty soon into it, after that, it starts to get very disorienting. And I think we're looking at this through the perception of the child. So if they have a head injury and things are getting more disorienting, because like the scenes you get before you learn about the head injury, they seem like they're still creepy. But I think that's an inherent creepiness that you have when you're a child. It wasn't too sinister in the beginning, but now that the head injury and everything else comes into play, it starts to get scarier and scarier, like that slipping into madness kind of. But to see it like through the eyes of a little child, I think that adds a kind of uncanniness maybe. I don't know. And a lot of the time, like the contrast or the fuzzy grain that they use, I get it's probably a filter. That a lot of the time is mainly what you're working with. I'm gonna be for real with you. But I think it works. I'm not gonna lie. Now, I should have prefaced this entire thing by saying, did I enjoy this experience? It was alright. Am I happy I watched it? Yeah. Would I watch it again? Yeah. As respectfully as I can say, it's boring. But I think that's supposed to be the case, very much just like with In a Violent Nature. That's the point. I understand if people aren't with that. I do. I get it. I'm only in for it for like the artistic value of it, I guess. But no, I wouldn't say that like it's necessarily an enjoyable watch. You know what I mean? But I wouldn't rag on it for that. It is what it is, The cinematography also adds immensely to the unease. Nothing is a head-on or straightforward kind of shot. It's all looking at corners or just looking at the tops of things or the bottoms. Like, you never get a real good sense necessarily of where you are in this house until they give you kind of like identifiable features. You know what I mean? They do talk about how they don't like their mom. They don't seem to trust her, the two little kids. I think this adds more so into it. I don't think that abuse is a major like theme in this, but I think it has something to do with it. And then things start going missing, like the toilet goes missing and they replace it with buckets. like little trash cans. Windows go missing, doors go missing, and it starts to become very, very disorienting. Like, you don't know quite where they are in the house unless they're sitting down in front of the TV or like up in the parents' room. You don't know really where they're at. With all of these different like shots and whatnot, and how overpowering like the darkness is in it all. Like, the darkness is its own character, kind of, you know? Really builds the house itself as a character within this. And the kids start having this voice that like talks to them, and you honestly might think that like it's the house, you know? But it's also, I think, the same voice that's in the narration or whatnot for the trailer.
In this house.
Which terrifies me. That's what kept me from watching this movie for so long, because I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to be that scared. Just the, in this house.
In this house.
Ugh, sends chills through me, dude. It reminds me of the freaking Law and Order intro. That like traumatized me as a kid. Just the intro scares the crap out of me. I don't know why. And just as it goes on, the like character of the house and the character of this other entity that starts to slowly be introduced in, it's just very sinister, and it gets more and more dark and like evil as it goes on. There are some jump scares, nothing like super, there's a couple. That damn phone. We'll talk about it, don't worry. And then this entity tells Kevin to stab himself in the eye. Now, I don't know like if it's directly like a negative evil spirit telling him to do it, or if it's a result from abuse and whatnot that has occurred to him, and just like the means of a child's mind to like justify it. It comes off as more of like a metaphor, I'm not gonna lie, because like things happen and then things go back to, oh no, it was like just kind of a dream, or you know what I'm saying. And there are still daytime shots of the house, but you're still inside, it's still dark. You can hear that it is like daytime, but there's no indication that like the comfort of day is there. You know what I mean? Also, I had to think about this as I was laying here, just in my own room watching it. This movie would be absolute torture to watch in a movie theater because it's so freaking quiet. It would be hell. Y'all thought A Quiet Place was hard to get through? The anxiety of making noise in that? This would be 1,000 times worse. 1,000 times worse. You're really at the mercy of everyone else around you for an experience with this movie. Because some horror movies, you can have rowdy people, this and that. It doesn't take away much from it. It's annoying, but it doesn't really like ruin the film unless it's happening like every second, you know? This movie could very easily be ruined if even just one person in the room isn't feeling it. You know what I mean? Going back to the film grain, it adds so much movement and like illusion to what you're seeing, because most of the time it's darkness. Just darkness, or like a little glimpse of light off in the corner and then just dark. It's more so like you're kind of watching a movie inside your head a little bit, if that makes sense. I don't think that does. It's just the power of suggestion. You don't have to actually put something there. You can just put a fuzzy grain filter over it and people's imaginations are going to go from that, which I think that's a little bit brilliant, just a bit. And then yeah, that damn phone. Oh my god. There's this little like Fisher Price or something phone. It's so freaking creepy, dude. Oh my god. And it's like one of the major jump scares, which it's so simple, but it works so well. Actually, you know what? Let's put in the clip right here. It's so loud, and like the movie itself, it's very quiet. So you turn it up because there are like softer things that you need to hear, but then they come back with like a super loud noise or something. And that's mostly what the jump scares are, is like the loud noise of it all, you know? As it continues and we start to slip more and more into like what seems to be an imaginary realm, the blue tint that covers most of everything pushes in contrast so high that it draws out all vibrancy in the colors that, you know, of the toys. Like, there's no more brightness, there's no life to it. Have you ever seen one of those like color underwater tests? They have a bunch of different colored tubes and they swim down, and you can see how the colors change according to the water depth and how light refracts and whatnot. That's what it's giving. It becomes like this monotone, almost like you can tell there's different hues, but it's all washed by this ominous blue. And then like the creeping in darkness, like it feels like it's its own presence. And like with that, the colors being washed out, you also get a sense of like that loss of innocence, that loss from your childhood, that like all the joy in things are being taken away. And it's sad. I'm not gonna lie, it's sad. The perspective on most of the shots is very, very wonky. A lot of the time you're finding yourself with like this extreme discomfort and unease, but then you're also trying to like rationalize like what you're looking at in the house. And I think that just adds to the overall confusion. And then we get the first like real full body shot of Kevin with 20 minutes remaining. It's over an hour and a half. And at this point, it's starting to make me wonder like if it's a nightmare or if he's reliving trauma or if it's possibly both. I'll be honest with you guys, I did not notice the 500 something day skip when I first watched this. There were moments where I got bored and I looked at my phone. Okay, I'm sorry, I messed up. So I missed that, which I think would be crucial. And that will play into some of the theories that people have about it. Also, the grain of the wood on the walls. This is such a niche thing, but I thought of it when I was watching this. The grain on the walls almost like imitates the grain that we see. It's like Kevin was kind of growing up with this illusion always that like just as we see things in the grain of the film, Kevin was seeing things in the grain of the wood and stuff like that. I don't know. That might be a stretch, but that's something that I pulled from it. Also, I would say that the most terrifying shots are the ones towards the end where it's upside down and like Kevin's literally walking on the ceilings. It's so creepy and unnerving for some reason. Like, you're just expecting to see something crawling. And, you know, as things go upside down and whatnot, we are getting further and further and further from reality. And that's where you get the shot of the toys that are piled up on the ceiling, like by a door. And it's a slow panning shot. Just keeps going back and back and back until, you know, you don't see the toys anymore. I don't know if that's Kevin slipping deeper in or if it's this entity that seems very childlike. That'll also play into some theories. If they're like hoarding Kevin's toys away from him, or if that's once again like a response to trauma. But it pulls itself back so much, and I'm going to say this throughout the entire movie, not just this one scene. It pushes the contrast and it sits for so long on certain images that you almost can't help but think of them as abstract pieces. You know what you're looking at, but it doesn't look real, like kind of thing. I think that probably adds to the overall just uncanniness that this movie has. And that scene specifically is after like the major time jump. So that slipping away, maybe that is, you know, a result of that head injury. And then the very ending, I think it's terrifying. It would be scary to see in a theater. Just the face. It's this barely illuminated face, and you can't make out any of the features or anything. You just know that like that person is standing there like in the darkness. Kevin's asking like, what's your name, who are you, stuff like that, and they just never answer. That's scary. That's scary to think about as a kid. Also because I had a nightmare literally just like that when I was younger and scared the crap out of me. So that is scary, and it builds up a lot of good tension. Plus, that comes right after the phone. That damn phone. So, some interpretations of this film that I read online while, researching up different stuff. The 572-day jump, the time shift. A lot of people are saying, okay, that's a coma. That makes sense, honestly. I didn't understand that take the very first time until I realized, oh, I missed that. Of course I did. Another one is our generational obsession with nostalgia and how that can be like detrimental. I don't think that's necessarily the case here. I think it's more reliving childhood, but not necessarily in an enjoyable way. Another theory is parental abuse. I think it's a mixture of that with the coma one, but there's another one that the entity is a child also, because of how they like pick and tease Kevin and his sister. Because at one point, Kevin's told to go down into the basement, and so he goes down with his sister, and then she ends up down there in the darkness, and she flips around, and her mouth has disappeared. And then that ominous voice says it's because she didn't act right. It's giving childish, like throwing a little tantrum and taking someone's toy away. But I'm not sure. Maybe. I'm interested to know what you guys think this other entity could be. You never see it, never get any idea of where like this voice is coming from. So for all we know, it could all just be in Kevin's head while he's experiencing this coma. And then with that, we will check out the top positive and the top critical reviews. This one's a long one, so this is the good one. The film is more of an artistic kind of horror film. So if you're not into the experimental stuff or anything artistic, then you may not like this. Otherwise, Skinamarink is a great film that is genuinely unsettling, and I felt drawn into it, like I was right there experiencing it with the children. It has elements of analog horror and liminal spaces, yes, definitely. And the grainy vintage film style it's shot in works well. The whispered dialogue is bone-chilling. There is a lot to be said for the really dark scenes where not much is visible. If you focus on the grain, your eyes will trick you into thinking something is there, or that something is moving. This is the kind of horror I really like, as it leaves questions. It doesn't spoon feed you what you're supposed to be afraid of. It's what you don't see that's the scariest in all of this. And that ending, geez. The only complaints I have are 1, the flickering scenes, which are physically painful to watch and I had to turn away, which brought me out of the film until the flickering wasn't so bright. And 2, the film could have been a bit shorter, agreed. Although the pacing was good despite the length, I would have loved more subtle horrors, like the scene where we see darkly glowing eyes only to be shown that it's the toy phone. That was terrifying. My soul literally left my body. The film isn't appreciated enough, and I'm sad it has so many low ratings, as it has so much potential and is a new take on quiet horror. And we need new takes on horror these days. Too many films won't take risk or experiment enough, and we get a lot of the same recycled themes over and over and over. And that's the reason I feel Skinamarink won't be quite as appreciated yet as it should be. People are used to the same old thing, and many aren't patient enough to understand what Skinamarink brings to the table. You have to sit back, clear your mind, and just give it a chance. Allow your mind to wander. And that's the key. Let your mind do the work. Let yourself become a child again who is alone and afraid in the dark, and be rid of any expectations to come into this fresh, and you'll have a genuinely haunting experience. That's really good. That's a really good way to put it. Now let's see this negative Nancy's response. Not response, but, their review. Alright, seriously considering contacting Amazon Prime to ask for my money back and asking why they're charging money for this garbage. The unfortunate thing is that a lot of these negative comments aren't very constructive. They seem to miss the point, if you know what I'm saying. This movie was bad. I'm not even talking about the content, storyline, or bad actors. I love unique horror films. The intentional quality and production was unwatchable. I understand it's supposed to be artistic, but no, it tried way too hard. I don't think it did, which led to it being annoying. I lasted 35 minutes and couldn't handle it anymore. Had to fast forward to the end to write a review, and even then saw nothing worth watching. All of the same vintage filming of different parts of the house. The characters, who are hardly seen from the waist up, were extras compared to the fuzzy light fixtures and other fuzzy parts of the house. Yep, those fuzzy scenes of the house is the majority of the movie. That's the point. Spare me the deeper meaning BS. I just saw laziness and cheap. Cheap can work with creativity, but this movie lacked that part. This is always going to be me disagreeing. This is the first free or rented movie I couldn't watch till the end. If I pay for a movie, I'm finishing it. Apparently not this one. Just couldn't do it. Trust me, don't watch this movie, even out of curiosity because of the bad reviews. It's every bit as unwatchable as the review says it is. You'll seriously be wasting time. You'll be wasting time if that's not what you want to go in for, but if you're aware of what it is, then I think you'll be alright with it. Like I said, I didn't enjoy it. It's not like a feel-good, fun movie to watch. It's experimental, so don't listen to the 5-star reviews. They're either trying to go against the grain or prideful of their insightful analysis of this film. Just because you can add your personal experience / feelings doesn't make a movie good. No, but if you can relate to it, doesn't that make it better? It's when you can't add those feelings and still be blown away by the fantasy that makes a good film. The fantasy isn't there. I guarantee the 5-star reviews are just as bored as I was. I got bored during it. I didn't say I, didn't, and I wouldn't give it 5 stars either. I'd maybe give it 3. What it's rated. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I think it was a good movie. It's a good, dive into something new for the horror genre, I guess, or just done through a new way. Thank you so much for tuning on in, you guys, to the Goo Report. And yeah, I definitely want to know your thoughts on this. Let me know if, once again, you have any ideas for future movies and whatnot. I believe someone did recommend this one, and so that's why I did it. But I have been wanting to watch it for a while, so it kind of gave me the perfect excuse to finally sit down and do it. But yeah, thank you so much, you guys. I truly do appreciate you. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Like and subscribe. Become a channel member. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.